the first thing I can say to anybody that's, later on in life that wants to play an instrument is just do it because you love it. And that's why we all started, the fact that we could somehow, eke out a career doing it, that sort of came later, but we all did it first because we were interested in it and we loved it. And that's the best reason to start.
Hi, and welcome to ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Liebman, founder and first baseman. If you've ever wanted to learn bass, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community. A lot of them of the silver-aged vintage, and they are learning bass, having the time of their life, playing music that they love. You should come join them and experience that incredible transformation for yourself. Because as I always say, you're never too old to groove. So let's play bass. My guest this week is an old friend. Derek Frank is a session and touring bassist based in Los Angeles. Well known for his work with Gwen Stefani and Shania Twain, Derek has also appeared with Shakira, Kelly Clarkson, Air Supply, Christina Aguilera, and he's done all the TV programs, Ellen, Dancing with the Stars, The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And Derek has released 3 solo albums, including the recently released Origin Story, which is awesome. I've been listening to it, which he's promoting on the road with his very own Derek Frank Band. This is his second time on For Bass Players Only. Welcome back, Derek. Always great to see you, man.
You as well. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
I really like the new record.
Thank you.
I've been listening to a lot. Tell us about it. What inspired this? What was it all about? What were you trying to say? Anything you want us to know about it?
Well, yeah, in 2020, I kind of got back into doing my own projects after taking some time off. As you said, I make my living playing with other people, touring with other artists and whatnot. And obviously, like when the pandemic hit, we all had to do something. So that's when I kind of got back into doing my own music, put a record out that year. And then when
10
music came
years
back,
after, right? Or 11 years later?
11 years later.
Not to
Um,
be confused with 10 years after. Okay, go ahead.
It's right. But aptly titled because the previous album was 2009. So there you go. Do the math. Yeah. So anyway, but then, once things opened up again, I got back on the road with Gwen and Shania and some other people. Um, and then last year I was on a big Shania tour. We were out pretty much all year. It was Shania's Queen of Me tour. And I was out pretty much the whole year. And after that, I felt the need to do something creative. I had a great time playing her music, but when you're kind of already in a creative space of doing your own music, and then you go back into playing somebody else's music, there's kind of a hole that needs to be filled. So pretty much immediately when I got back from that tour and a little bit on the tour, I started writing and started planning this next record. So I finished her tour in November of 23 and went in the studio in January of 24 to record Origin Story. I just really felt a need to do my own music again and really start pushing that. And also, like, I knew that I was done with Shania at that point. I knew that I wasn't going to be playing with her anymore. So I was thinking, okay, well, now is the time to really focus on my own thing before the phone rings, from an artist again, take advantage of this time and do my own thing.
So, how did you decide on the tunes? You've got mostly originals. I don't think you wrote Jive Talking, did you?
I wish yeah, I'd be a lot richer if I had and a lot
It's
more, a
a
lot of.
very cool treatment of that song.
Thank you. Yeah, we did 2 covers. We did Jive Talking by the Bee Gees and I Know a Little by Leonard Skinner, which is a pretty random one. But I always think about guests that I want to get on the record, and I'm a big fan of Brent Mason's guitar playing. He's like a Nashville studio legend, played on all the big country stuff in the '90s, and still very active and an amazing country guitar player. And was just thinking, what can I do that I can get Brent Mason on? And I was listening to the radio and that song came on and I was like, this could be pretty cool instrumentally. And this would be a good outlet for Brent Mason to do his Brent Mason thing. So that's how that one came about. It's a little random for a jazz funk kind of bass player to be doing a Leonard Skinner song, but there are no rules in instrumental music.
Right. And there's one that I like it all. There's one I particularly like, the one about the paperboy. What's it called? Paperboy Blues.
Boy Blues.
Yes,
Cool.
I
Glad you
like.
like it. That was a co-write with me and Joshua Ray Gooch, my usual guitar player. He came over one day and we hammered that one out in an hour or so. And it's just kind of a cool, weird sort of blues form, but with like a weird sharp 11 kind of focused melody. And yeah,
Yeah,
glad I liked it.
kind of snaky, and it just
Yeah.
grabbed. You mentioned you went into the studio. Did you collectively go into the studio, or was it one of these, this day and age remote recording, transfer files kind of thing?
Well, I mean, I when I do sessions, I'm doing them mostly remotely. Like when I'm doing sessions for other people, I have a home studio here, and people send me tracks and I send them back. But when I do my own music, I prefer to bring a band into the studio and do it old school, like a bunch of people in a room creating together, then going into the control room, listening to playback, saying, "Oh, I want to do that differently." We go back in and just I like that organic approach of like we humans creating something together. So that's what I did. I had my band go into the studio. We did all the rhythm section tracks together, and then I did the horn tracks, overdubbed, did that on a separate session.
I think everybody prefers to do it that way, but it's so easy to say, oh, this person's in London, this person's in LA, this person's in Nashville. So I'm really glad that you were able to do it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, I did some like the guests recorded remotely. Like Carl Denson played sax on one track. He's in San Diego and he's on the road a ton. So I don't know if he was home or on the road, but he did his sax track remotely. And then Brent Mason, I don't know if he's in Nashville or Florida, but he did his remotely. But we did kind of the core band stuff in the studio, and then with a few overdubs.
So the core band is who exactly?
Well, it's typically on the record, it's Randy Cook on drums, Kerry Frank on keys, who's no relation. So happens I have a keyboard player whose last name is Frank as well. Joshua Ray Gooch on guitar and Demian Arriaga on percussion, and they're my core live band. But they're not always available. Everybody's a professional touring musician in this band, so people are kind of all over the place. So I can't always get my core band. So on a few other tracks, I have Anthony King on guitar and Matt Rohde on keys. And then live lately, the band has been kind of changing a little bit. I've been using a drummer named Matt Hankel, who's a great friend of mine. Rotating cast of guitar players. Anthony King will come in, Will Brom, Andrew Sinowick, and Joshua Ray Gooch when I can get him.
What about the title Origin Story? I think I read a couple things about what that means, but why don't we have you tell it?
That whole concept came about kind of like after we had already recorded stuff or started the process. I didn't set out with this to be a concept thing, but when you're doing instrumental music, you got to come up with song titles and you got to come up with album titles, and you don't have lyrics to go off of. So I just for some reason I don't know how this hit me, but I decided I wanted to make it sort of a comic book sort of theme for like the cover and all that, and the name Origin Story came about, which obviously is like used in comic book terms to describe the origin of a certain character or superhero. And that's kind of the theme I went with for the record. And I in recent years I've kind of gone back and sort of grown a big appreciation for my roots in Pittsburgh, which I don't really have any ties there anymore. I don't have any family in Pittsburgh, but it's where I grew up. It's where I discovered music. It's where I like found my passions, and so I just decided to make this record. Just kind of the concept is just my origin story, and the songs are all titled in a way that sort of hint at me growing up in Pittsburgh.
I don't know if I knew you were from Pittsburgh or not, but I just interviewed somebody. Was that just yesterday or the day before from Pittsburgh? Do you know Nathan Peck?
I don't. Uh-uh.
He's a great bass player. Played with everybody from Maynard Ferguson to Alex Skolnick to Maria Moldauer and everybody
Wow.
in between. And a few months ago, I interviewed Paul Thompson. He's also from
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
okay. I've seen his YouTube channel. Yeah, he's got a lot of really great stuff on there.
Great YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. George Benson's from Pittsburgh, isn't he? And
Yeah.
Ahmad Jamal.
Yep, absolutely. A couple legends from Pittsburgh. Yeah. Yeah, and it's got a great music scene. Like I get through there on tours and stuff, and every now and then I'll have a night off and go to try to check something out. And I've got a couple friends that live there, and they're playing all the time. Tony Gray, the great fusion bass player, he
Oh,
lives in
that's right.
Pittsburgh.
That's right. The British guy.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure how he ended up in Pittsburgh, but my
A
buddy Matt.
woman had something to do with that.
Oh, yeah, they'll do that. Yep, yep.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Tony in a while, but I had some family there growing up, and I used to visit there. Actually, I played there at least once. I was playing with the Broadway show Into the Woods
Oh,
with
cool.
Cleo Blaine and Stephen Sondheim. We played at Heinz Hall, which was fun. That's
Okay.
kind of
Yeah,
special.
very
Uh,
cool.
what did I want to ask you about? Oh, yes. So you were mentioning your band and the record. You're touring now to promote the record?
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of sporadic. It's not like a long tour. It's just I'm booking what I can. This is a new thing for me to like take my band on the road, and it's something that's always been on my like bucket list of things I want to do. And it's, I got to the point where I feel like I've done a lot of the things in my career that I've set out to do, fortunately, but this is one that I haven't. I've never toured with my own band. Like we've only done local shows around LA and Southern California. And so it's always been a dream of mine to take my band on the road. So I'm booking random things here and there. We just went to New York for a one-off. We did 2 nights in Vegas. We went to Utah a few weeks ago, and then later this summer and into the fall, we're doing like Pacific Northwest. We're doing a bunch of shows in Colorado. We're doing a run in Florida in October, like mid-October. Um, yeah, so I'm trying to do that as much as I can, and it's a lot of work and it's a lot of investment, but to me, it's worth it. It's really it's making my soul happy.
Did you go to school in Florida?
I
Did
did.
you?
I went to University of Miami.
That's what I thought. I went there too. So yeah,
I
you're a fellow hurricane. That's why.
remember. Yep, I remember. Yeah, we had that conversation last time.
That's right. Well, that was. You know what? When I saw you had a new record, I said, "Well, I can't." Derek, I just interviewed him, and it was like, "Oh my gosh, that was 4 years ago." Whoa. Yeah.
Guys, yeah. Well, pandemic was a whole blip in time.
Who was at Miami when you were there? Because we obviously
Um,
went there at the same time. We would have known each other.
Yeah, I started in 91 and finished in 96. I took a year off after my freshman year and then went back and finished in 96. But my teachers were Don Kaufman, Matt Benelli, Leo Huppert, and Dennis Marks, the TA. And then it was still Whit Seidner was the head of the program. Vince Maggio was piano teacher. Ron Miller, composition.
Yep.
Uh, and we had a lot of great students that are on to doing great things now. Jeff Babco, keyboard player who plays in the Jimmy Kimmel Band. Brendan Buckley, great drummer, plays with everybody. A lot of great players from Miami.
That's great. Yeah, I'll have most of those same teachers. One or two of them I didn't hear of, but Matt Benelli and Dennis Marks, we were in school together.
Oh,
And
okay, there you
I
go.
studied with Don Kaufman. I also Lucas Drew with the classical, the
Oh
clay.
yeah, huh? Yep, I took one semester with him. Yep.
Great guy. I saw him at a convention about 2015 or something like that. But the students, like I said, well, I went there. I went to school with Steve Bailey
Oh,
and
cool.
Rick Fiorabracci,
Oh, yep. Rick's
Andy
amazing.
Simmons, and Matt Benelli, Dennis Marks, those guys. So yeah,
That's cool.
bringing back some great memories. All right. Well, I got to be careful how I ask this next question because I want to ask you about your gear and your basses and looking over your shoulder. It could be a pretty long answer. I've interviewed a lot of people, and sometimes people say, "Oh, I've got 200 basses. I've got 300 basses," and I usually counter by saying, "Yeah, that's cool. That's great, but I bet when you go to pick up the bass, you tend to gravitate to the same one or two or three all the time," and they all go. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
So I don't know how much that may or may not be the case with you. So having set that intro up, tell me about your gear, your basses, and your strings,
cool.
effects, stuff like
Yeah. I mean, I don't have 200 or 300 bases, so I'm not. I haven't gotten that crazy yet. I think I'm up to somewhere in the 30 to 35 range. I got some in storage, and yeah, it's for me. It's I have different bases for different gigs, and that's kind of like whenever I acquire or buy bases, it's because I have a certain gig where I'm like, oh, this would be really cool on that gig. And I mean, that rule doesn't always apply. Sometimes I just see something online and I'm like, I must have that. And then, I hang it on the wall and I play it a little bit, but then I'm not doing the gig that it's the right thing for. So a lot of these are like amazing instruments that I never want to sell, but they don't get as much love as they deserve. So I got to try to start rotating more. But um, you know, when I do my own project, I've pretty much locked in the Music Man Stingray short scale as the bass of choice for that. That came about like during the pandemic. I did some demo videos for it. I think they'd just come out with it or something, and somebody referred me to do some videos, and I played it and I just loved it. It's so fun to play. It's a passive Stingray, which I think is a great thing. Like I don't know if they've ever made a passive Stingray before that. And it's just so fun to play. So it has the Stingray vibe, but like kind of without that high end sizzle. It has a little bit more of an old school flavor. I put flat wounds on mine, and one of them I tuned down a step. And so yeah, I used two of those with my project, one in standard tuning and one DGCF, and those are great. And I did use one of those on the Shania tour last year. I used one tuned DGCF. It was appropriate for a few songs on that tour. Um, but mostly with Shania, I play tuned down basses. I play basses in BEAD tuning and even B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. So the basses I found that worked really great in that tuning were Sandbergs. So I've got two Sandbergs that I took out on that tour last year. One is kind of a custom VM, which is a P bass pickup, it's a reverse P bass pickup and a Music Man pickup, and then one that's a VM2, which is two Music Man pickups. So those are great on that gig. When I was with Gwen Stefani, I was playing Fano basses. I still have one of those, and Music Man. I played a Music Man five
I know.
string. Fano, yeah, they're a company out of Arizona.
I never
Uh,
heard of them. Was it FANNOW?
Fano.
Oh, FANO. Okay.
Yeah, and it's yeah, the one I was using was called the JM4. It was like a kind of a Jaguar body shape, like the offset, and then it had two Thunderbird pickups in a jazz bass position. So it was a really weird hybrid bass, and
Hmm.
that worked really well for that. And then, of course, like when I do sessions, a lot of times I've got some great vintage basses. I've got a 63P bass, a 76P bass, Harmony H22 hollow body, which is a lot of fun. I've got a Labella Olinto short scale, which is like a Mustang that's hanging up. That's the kind of Fiesta red one hanging up behind me.
Yep.
That one really great. I've used that in the studio. I use that on the record as well. That's the bass I used on Paperboy Blues actually. Um, and yeah, a bunch of Music Man basses. I've got the Dark Ray. I've got a 79 Stingray, a 79 Saber. Um, yeah, but they're all they all kind of get used for different things.
Yeah, sure. You mentioned the labella bass. As I recall, you were a big fan of labella strings too. Is that right?
Yep, yep. Still use labella strings. When for the basses that kind of use the round wounds that I want that sound on, I use the RX stainless strings. And then on my flat wound basses, I like the low tension flats. They're great. They're just light tension and really fun to play.
What kind of amps do you play through?
I use Aguilar stuff. I always prefer a DB 750 or 751 with a couple DB 410 cabs or an 810. That's a rig that I always request when I have a backline set up. Um, and then when I do gigs where I have to bring my own amp, I don't want to lug that thing. I'm too old for that. So I have a couple of the SL 112 cabs with an AG 700 head, and that's a great lightweight amp that I can carry around and will destroy my back. Um, but then, doing some of the bigger gigs, like when I was doing Gwen and Shania, those were both all Kemper amps off stage. Like we didn't use any amps on stage. So
That's
that was
nice.
all. Yeah, we had a rack off stage with a couple of Kemper racks, and I had all my sounds programmed in that. Everything was MIDI triggered by the show computer. No pedal boards on stage or anything. So I used all the effects and all the amps in that.
Are backlines going away, or is it a case by case basis, or
It's
what do you?
case by case, really. I mean, luckily when I do my band, it's in this sort of instrumental, sort of jam band, jazz funk world, and amps are still alive and well in that world. On the big pop tours, though, they're really going away. I mean, you maybe see some with them, But on most of those tours, people are just using virtual amps now. I mean, they've come a long way. The Kemper stuff sounds incredible. And they'll put subs, under the stage, or like I did. I filled in with Kelly Clarkson on a couple shows recently, and they put a sub like right near me, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. You know,
Yeah.
they don't all do that, but that was some great thinking to just like put a sub right there. I think all that helps with the mix, helps the front of house guy, when there's not a whole lot of stuff bleeding into mics on stage.
Yeah, I could see that. Any effects or stuff like that?
Yeah, I love all that stuff. I'm a pedal junkie for sure. I just got a great new pedal board by this company called West Coast Pedal Board, and it's just really nice, like Tolex pedal board that's all wired. And I use a lot of MXR pedals. I use the envelope filter and the vintage bass octave, the Phase 95. Those are great. I use the Way Huge Pork and Pickle overdrive and fuzz. That's great. I use their wah, their mini bass wah. I've got an Ernie Ball volume pedal. Those are the best volume pedals out there. What else do I have on there? Origin Effects Cali 76 compressor, of course. That's like a go-to always on compressor pedal. And I've been using a couple Source audio pedals lately that are really good. Spectrum Intelligent Filter is great. On tour, I use the C4 synth on a few things with Shania. Um, yeah, so I've been using that stuff, and think some things get swapped in and out here and there, depending on the
What
gig sound.
about a Sans amp? You ever use one of those? Those are really popular.
I used one of their rack mount units on the first Shania tour I did back in 2015. I used their PSA 1 or PSA 1.1. It's like an analog, uh, sort of blend of an analog and digital preamp, and I used that. I haven't really gotten into there. I know everybody swears by the what is it called, the bass driver DI, and that's such a go-to for a lot of people. I've honestly never even tried one, but yeah, one of these days I should try their stuff because I know they're highly respected.
Well, I talk to them a lot. I could see about getting them to send you one.
Cool, right on. I'd love to try one. I know they have a few different things. They've got some signature items there.
Eddie
To get,
Lee, Doug Pinnick.
yeah, yeah, they've got some of those. It'd be interesting to try some of those.
All right. Well, I'll make a call on your behalf. How's that?
All right, thanks.
Hey, I want to ask you about playing bass and learning bass because for bass players only is really a bass instruction site. And I've got students from pretty much all 50 states now in the US and
Amazing.
50, 60 countries worldwide, probably more than that now. And most of the people that I'm attracting, at first, I thought I was going to get a different group of people, but I'm getting men and women in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I've got students in their 80s. So these are not people that are career bound. They're not trying to play sold out arenas to adoring fans all over the world. They want to get together with their buddies and play some classic rock riffs or some blues shuffles, maybe a little walking bass, some funk, whatever it is they want. Some of them actually are quite content. I was surprised to hear this too, to just sit in a room by themselves and learn to play bass. So
Yeah,
I met a few people like that too. But some of the things that happen to people when they get into their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, there's arthritis and tendonitis and those kind of nuisances. So I'm telling you all this just to give you somewhat of a context because I want to ask you, Derek, what advice could you impart to somebody like that who wants to learn to play bass? What should they be thinking about? What kind of goals should they have? What kind of questions should they ask? Anything like that?
well, first of all, I think it's cool, like that you're saying you're getting a lot of people that sound like maybe it's something that they've always wanted to do, but work and family was, took precedence and they didn't have the time to do it. And now, maybe they're retired or they're empty nesters and they have some more time. I did years ago, not that long, I mean, like 5 years ago, I did a rock and roll fantasy camp where I was a counselor. And it's a lot of people like that. It's a lot of people who are like, there are a lot of retirees and they come and they kind of learn an instrument, and they come and you coach them and basically coach a band, teach them how to be in a band and play with these rock stars that they're going to get to go jam with. And it's really cool. I love to see that. And I think really the first thing I can say to anybody that's, later on in life that wants to play an instrument is just do it because you love it. And that's, I mean, that's why we all started, I mean, the fact that we could somehow, eke out a career doing it. That sort of came later, but we all did it first because we were interested in it and we loved it. And that's the best reason to start. And I would say for them, like, people like that getting on a site like yours where they can interact with somebody, take some lessons, look at some videos, ask questions, I think that's such a great thing to do. And it's great that we have those resources now. So it's a great thing that you're doing. And I mean, obviously, practice is key. It's like the only way you're going to get better is if you put in the time. Um, but you have to enjoy it. And it's good that people are doing it just because it's something fun they want to do.
Yes, it is. Thank you for that answer. That was inspiring.
Right on.
What else is coming up, Derek, that you may not have mentioned? What about the future? Either something that's in the works and scheduled, or something that I've always wanted to. Someday I'm gonna.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm just booking more shows with my own band. I've pretty much got the year filled up as far as like what my availability is. Like, I've pretty much got all the dates filled up that I want to fill up. This summer I'm going to be doing a lot of gigs filling in with a Canadian band called Took. It's my bandmate Corey Churko from Shania Twain. He is a band with these other Canadian musicians. Todd Kearns and Brent Fitz, who play in Slash's band. That's kind of their regular gig. And
Shania's Canadian, isn't she?
she is, yeah, yep. So these are all Canadian guys, and they do a lot of festivals in Canada. And they started off playing a lot of, like, the concept of the band was playing Canadian '80s rock hits, stuff by, like, Saga and Aldo Nova and some Rush and all these bands that we didn't really get down in the States, like Chilliwack and April Wine and Queen City Kids and Harlequin and bands like that. So I'm going to be filling in with them a bunch this summer. A bunch of shows.
Aldo Nova. I haven't heard that name in probably 35 years.
Yeah,
My wife
right.
is from Canada, so she
Oh,
may know
cool.
some names. Both my wife and my mother were born in Canada.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, they probably know a lot of these bands then.
She knows the Guess Who and BTO and Anne
Yeah.
Murray and Gordon
Yeah.
Lightfoot and
Yep. Yeah. Canadian legends. Yeah.
absolutely.
And I love playing in Canada. I mean, being with Shania for as long as I was, like, we obviously did a lot of shows in Canada, and I love it. I love the vibe, kind of everywhere up
Like
there. And
Joni Mitchell.
what's that?
Joni Mitchell. I forgot the name.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, and Neil Young.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, a lot. Yeah, so we're gonna have some fun. I'm doing a bunch of gigs with them. So I haven't booked anything for myself until August 30th. I'm taking a little break from my own things because I got to focus on that. And then, really the next thing for me is I'm doing everything independently now as far as my own project is concerned. It's all me. But I'm starting to search for management and a booking agent. That's kind of the next step is kind of building the business team, just to try to get, you know, start moving up a level with my own thing. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just because right now for the first time in a long time, I don't have a regular gig as far as a sideman goes. So I'm just doing this, and it's bringing me a lot of joy. It's really a lot of fun, and I'm still open to doing sideman work, when it comes up and it's the right thing. So we'll see if an artist decides to call me at some point, and if I can kind of do both, if I can juggle an artist gig and my own, that's kind of the ideal situation for me. But I'm also at a point now where I've been doing this long enough that, I don't feel the need to be super busy all the time. I'm not taking every gig that comes my way. I'm being a little more selective. There's some, a lot of kinds of gigs that I used to do that I just don't do anymore. I'm starting to appreciate my free time a little more. And if I can turn down some things and not keep my schedule completely full all the time, it frees me up to do more writing and work on my own project more, which, like I said, it's bringing me a lot of joy. So it's trying to focus on that more.
Well, listening to Origin Story, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun playing.
I am, and I'm glad you like it.
Very much. I think I might have asked you this question last time, but maybe not. What would you be, if you could imagine, if you were not a bass player? Something outside of music.
I would live in a mountain town. I probably gave you the same answer last time. I would live in a mountain town. I'd be a snowboard instructor. Uh, maybe I'd work in a coffee shop just for the passion of it because I'm kind of a big coffee geek. Uh, I might do that just for the fun of it. You know, might get a real estate license and sell some houses because that's another that I mean, real estate's kind of my side hustle anyway. Like we've got a few rental properties and things like that. So we've bought and sold a few houses, and that's kind of like a little side hustle as well. So I may just, I would do maybe that mountain town life, and we do spend a lot of time in the mountains now. Like whenever I have free time, we go to Mammoth or Telluride. Those are two places where we have some properties, some rentals. We go out there when we can. So yeah, I think that's probably what I would do.
Sounds like a good life.
Yeah, that does. If it just, I could do that if it weren't for this damn music career getting in the way.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. But hey, I'd love to do another follow-up interview. I'm sure you're going to have more stuff to talk about. So I can't believe it's been 4 years since the last. I remember sitting.
Yeah, it's time flies when you're having fun.
Well, the new album is called Origin Story. Highly recommended. If you like really good music that makes you feel good, check it out. Derek Frank is the artist. Thanks so much, Derek. Much luck and continued success to you always.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Liebman, founder and first baseman. If you've ever wanted to learn bass, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community. A lot of them of the silver-aged vintage. They are learning bass, having the time of their life playing music that they love. You should come join them and experience that incredible transformation for yourself. Because as I always say, you're never too old to groove. So let's play bass. Thanks again to my special guest, Derek Frank. I will see you right back here, same time, same place next week. You're watching ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.